What's good? It's Woog. We've got the rematch at lightweight between William Zepeda, 32 wins and 0 losses, taking on Tevin Farmer, 33 wins, 7 losses, and 1 no contest. I know the layout is a little bit different than usual, but I am in the middle of a move and I should have the new office squared away very shortly. But this is a pretty exciting rematch, and you know, the odds for the first time that these two fought were something like 20-1. William Zepeda was a 20-1 favorite over Tevin Farmer, and Tevin Farmer exceeded expectations so much and made this such a close fight that in this rematch, William Zepeda is a minus 670. So he went from being a 20-1 favorite to now a 6.5 to 7 to 1 favorite. So you can kind of see how absurd and lopsided those odds were the first time around. But again, Tevin Farmer exceeded expectations. A lot of people thought that because of William Zepeda's super aggressive style, throwing 100+ punches around, and then you've got Tevin Farmer, the former IBF 130-pound champion who lost his title to Jojo Diaz, then was out of the ring for like 2 to 3 years, came back, won a couple lesser fights, and then lost to Raymond Murataya up at lightweight. A lot of people thought that all of the momentum was on Zepeda's side, who had just stopped Maxie Hughes, who had just beaten the brakes off of Jojo Diaz, again, the same Jojo Diaz that took Tevin Farmer's title. A lot of people thought that William Zepeda was more or less going to have his way with Tevin Farmer, even if Farmer gave him some trouble in the early rounds because of William Zepeda picking up the steam as the rounds go along. And again, Tevin Farmer now being in his mid-30s and having lost a few times, William Zepeda was supposed to win this fight, and it wasn't supposed to be that damn close. In fact, people already had in mind Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda, one of the funnest fights and most interesting, style-wise fights that you could have at lightweight. Well, Tevin Farmer clearly had other plans. Like, this was not only close in the early rounds where Tevin Farmer dropped William Zepeda like in the 3rd round. That was pretty shocking to most. But even when you got into the middle and late rounds, Tevin Farmer was still right there, competitive. He wasn't getting blown out. He wasn't getting too overwhelmed by the volume and activity. In fact, most of this fight involved Tevin Farmer pushing William Zepeda back, and then Zepeda would continue to work the body, whereas Tevin Farmer was effectively counterpunching and rolling with most of Zepeda's best shots up top. I would say that Zepeda's best work was to the body with the 2-fisted attack, but again, when Zepeda would go upstairs, Tevin Farmer was very skilled at rolling with the punches and doing a lot of the catch and shoot, and basically just outboxing him from the inside, not to mention being the quicker and better reflex fighter from the outside. So this fight surprised a lot of people, and this was about as close as it gets on the scorecards. And this was a part of Riyadh season Mexico. Yes, it took place in Saudi Arabia, but it was Mexico themed. So this was on the Zurdo Ramirez versus Chris Billam Smith undercard. That was the same fight card that had Arnold Barboza beating Jose Ramirez. So this fight actually had the most lopsided odds on the entire card. And even with that theme at play and the bigger plans that people had for William Zepeda going forward, this fight resulted in a 115 to 114 scorecard on all 3 judges' cards. One of the judges had Tevin Farmer winning 115 to 114. The other 2 had Zepeda winning 115 to 114. So on the cards, aside from a draw, this was as close as it gets, which tells you how much success Tevin Farmer was having in there with William Zepeda. And I know that Zepeda has a reputation of being the bigger puncher out of the 2. Well, only one of these 2 guys got dropped in that entire fight. And when it came to the most eye-catching shots, it was Tevin Farmer who looked like he was ringing Zepeda's bell, not the other way around. Again, the best work that Zepeda was doing was to the body. And yes, it did look pretty brutal at times with him working the body. But yeah, this was a razor close fight that went to Zepeda via split decision, but it was so close and so interesting and intriguing that there was a demand to run this one back. So that's what we got in this rematch. And as much as the X's and O's lead me to think that if Tevin Farmer who's more the sweet science guy, more the boxing IQ guy. Now, Zepeda isn't a bad boxer. I mean, you could look at his history from when he upset Hector Tanahara onward. Yes, he did have some trouble with Rene Alvarado. I thought that was a really close fight, but by and large, I mean, the way that he blew Giovanni Cabrera out, a lot of people thought that Cabrera would give him more problems, but again, Zepeda stopped Maxie Hughes in 4 rounds. He stopped Giovanni Cabrera, who fought competitively with Pitbull Cruz. He stopped him in 3 rounds. So Zepeda, yes, he does overwhelm people with activity, but it's because of how he often fills those blank spaces as well that gets the job done. What do I mean by that? When somebody circles out after Zepeda kind of pins them up against the ropes or something, they circle out, Zepeda will close that distance with the long jab, step in, so then he's right back where he started and can let those shorter punches go. So when you think that you've used your feet to get out of harm's way by pivoting out, trying to bring it back to the center of the ring, he's got that jab in your face and he's stepping right back inside. So he's one of those guys who drowns his opponents. I like using the phrase, he puts his opponents on the treadmill from hell where it just don't stop. And it's a matter of how much durability, how long can you keep up with his pace? He doesn't give you much reprieve at all. But again, because Tevin Farmer was the one who wasn't looking to retreat, wasn't looking to circle and use the whole ring to buy time, but was standing in the pocket, stepping forward, pushing Zepeda back, that's why Tevin Farmer has so much success. We haven't really seen people try that strategy against William Zepeda. So if Tevin Farmer had that level of success the first time around, why should we think that this rematch should be any different? I do think that this rematch is going to be competitive like the first one was, but I don't think Tevin Farmer is going to do enough to get it done on the judges' scorecards. Some of these reasons is fight related, meaning I think that Tevin Farmer, going into his mid-30s, tasted a lot of leather in that first fight. He got beaten up pretty bad. Yes, he did arguably win the fight, or, fought a very even fight with Zepeda, but he did eat a lot of leather there. And there were times where I was wondering if Farmer was slowing down legs-wise going into the late rounds. And, just with that brutal body attack, I was wondering if Farmer was starting to wilt. And if he was starting to wilt, he didn't continue to wilt. He stuck in there and he basically, again, gave as good as he got. But other reasons why I think Zepeda is going to win this fight is because that first fight was in Saudi Arabia. And while Turki Al-Sheikh and Riyadh Season have been putting on some of the most spectacular cards in boxing over the past couple years now, those crowds are awful. Like, listen to the volume of the crowd. It sounds like a golf crowd. Like, you could hear some voices and some claps, but it's not a raucous crowd. It's not a good boxing environment, not yet at least. So yes, the fights are tremendous and the fight cards are stacked, but it's a terrible environment. Like, I don't know if it's because you've got so many rich and wealthy people in the house that you don't have like an authentically passionate boxing crowd, or if it's because there's no alcohol in the building. I don't know, but if you listen to the crowds in these Riyadh Season fights, it lacks a big something. So in that first fight between Zepeda and Farmer, you had a pretty quiet crowd. So you were just left to watch the action, and the action was even. So Farmer, to the viewers and probably to the judges, was getting rewarded for the work that he was doing. In this rematch, they're going to be in Cancun, Mexico. So everything that was lacking crowd-wise in that first fight is going to be, I'm sure it's going to be raucous in this rematch. So anytime you see, the high volume William Zepeda letting his hands go, you're probably going to get a roar from the crowd. And it's going to be one of those just high octane where it's going to be a lot of cheering, shouting. You're going to hear a bunch of mariachi and banda music between rounds. It's going to be that type of environment where the fan favorite William Zepeda is going to be getting showered with love, whereas I don't know if Tevin Farmer is going to be getting full credit for the work that he does. So for that reason, as much as for the boxing reasons, and again, Tevin Farmer, I was wondering how his legs were maintaining throughout the second half of that 10-rounder, whereas this rematch is going to be a 12-rounder. So yeah, Tevin Farmer had enough to dig deep and to, again, fight an even 10 rounds with the merciless William Zepeda. Will he be able to do that in a 12-rounder? And will he be able to do it in a way where in Cancun, Mexico, it registers with the judges. Given the biased crowd sound, will Tevin Farmer have done enough to earn a decision on their scorecards? I think he's gonna have to fight an even better fight than he did in that first fight. Again, IQ wise, maybe he could get it done. Maybe he knows what he's up against and knows what he needs to do and knows where he potentially could have done better in that first fight, in the 10-rounder, to do even better in the 12-rounder. Maybe Tevin Farmer is good enough to do it, but maybe that first fight against William Zepeda was kind of his last hurrah. Not to say that Tevin Farmer doesn't still have enough to give. If you fought an even fight with Zepeda, you damn right you got more to give. But maybe Tevin Farmer fought Zepeda about as well as he could have, even though, again, I mean, he was swinging for the fences with some of those counters and he was blasting Zepeda with those left hands. And this was southpaw versus southpaw. But yeah, Tevin Farmer was just catching him time and time again. Maybe he did about as well as he could in that first fight. Maybe he could do even better in the second fight. We'll see. But because of the venue and because this is a 12-rounder, I'm going to go with William Zepeda to win the fight, not via stoppage, but via decision. And I think it's probably going to be either a majority decision where you've got one wide scorecard. I don't think it's going to be like 115, 113, or in the last case, 115, 114 because of the knockdown. I don't think it's going to be that close on the scorecard. Or excuse me, it was 95, 94 on all three judges' scorecards because it was a 10-rounder. So it wasn't 115, 113, 115, 114. No, it was 95 to 94 on all three scorecards. But I don't think that this rematch is going to be as close on the scorecards. I think this is going to be one where William Zepeda wins it something like 116 to 112, maybe even a scorecard that reads 117, 111. I think that Tevin Farmer is going to have his success in different moments and he's going to win multiple rounds, but I don't see him winning against William Zepeda in Cancun, Mexico. I just don't see it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one. I'm glad that they're running it back because, you know, I thought that Tevin Farmer did well enough to deserve that rematch, and it's often the case where the guy doesn't get a rematch in a fight that's that close when they're the B-side guy and they outperformed against the A-side guy. But yeah, in this case, we get the rematch, and I suspect that if William Zepeda wins this one, that they do try to make Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda. At least one would hope. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. How did you score that first fight? And do you think Tevin Farmer could have as much success in this rematch against William Zepeda? Again, the odds shifting from 20 to 1 in the first fight to now being more like 6.5 to 1 show you how competitive that first fight was. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.